Zip, the full review of the Boox Tab Ultra, and it's not hard to see who this is aimed at. Boox have done something that tech companies are always agonizing over. They've released a new product without cannibalizing the market for one of their old ones. So for that reason, if you primarily want a reader and a note taker, I would perhaps still recommend the Note Air 2 or the Note Air 2 Plus. I will do a longer comparison video with the Tab Ultra and the Note Air 2 soon. That being said, this is a really high value device because of what comes in the package. You get the Pen 2 Pro and you get a case bundled in as well. You can also get this keyboard case, which for me is a bit of a no-brainer. This is a device for somebody who wants to do more than just read and take notes on the device. This is a productivity tool. So the people who should buy this are people who know they want e-ink, but know they want to do more on the device than just read or take notes. If you want a productivity powerhouse, is this the right device for you? Should you buy this instead of a laptop or instead of an iPad or other Android tablet? Is it really going to replace any of your many devices with LCD screens? Is it going to replace your phone, for instance, for doing a calendar, your laptop for writing emails? We'll see. For me, though, it's a new category of device and it's a new hope for what e-ink can be. In time, perhaps we will have devices with glorious e-paper screens that can run it all natively just as well as an LCD screen can. For now, as I type on this excellent tablet, switching between this well-made keyboard, the voice input, and the handwriting input with the pen, I can actually see I'm typing into X-Tiles, which are these two windows here on the screen as well, and I can actually see the background flickering, and it's interesting because I can see the flicker is at the refresh rate of the screen. If I change it up to ultra fast, then that flicker is more times per second essentially. Now that's not necessarily Boox's fault, that is because it's running a app which is designed for an LCD screen. That is, it's running on Google Chrome there, and it's having to sort of use that input to give you what it thinks is the best for the e-paper screen. Soon I hope that third-party apps will actually work seamlessly on these devices, but we're not quite there yet. And I think it's going to come down to not Boox, but it's going to come down to app companies, app developers writing things specifically for e-ink tablets, or at least giving their apps an e-ink tablet mode. Luckily, however, the apps that Boox give you, the reader, the browser, the note-taking app, they're where you're going to spend most of the time anyway, and they're really excellent. More on that later on. But most of this, you're only dipping into the third-party apps, for instance, to access your cloud storage or your email. I'm going to use the same set of categories that I recently used for my 6-way comparison, and that's going to tell you where this is going to fit into that comparison. I'm going to give each one a score, and I'm going to do some demonstrations with the tablet. Firstly, we're going to talk about the software. I'm going to talk about the Notes app. Now, this is not new to many of us. This is the same Boox Note app that you've got in all the other Boox devices. It is really good though, and it does work fabulously on this e-paper screen. It's got everything that you think you might need, including audio recording. You can insert attachments, pictures, and now you can even link to a page or a website. One thing that Boox does pretty well is when a competitor adds something, they add that same feature pretty quickly. And one thing that I've just noticed Boox have brought into the Notes app onto the Ultra is using tilt with the pencil tool in the Notes app. That's something that I really loved about using the Remarkable, and before this isn't in any other e-ink tablet. It's now a better experience in the note-taking app than it was on the Note Air 2 Plus, simply because of that GPU. It has made things that little bit faster. And the interesting thing is it handles the removing of strokes really, really well, and you get minimal ghosting. So you do get this really almost perfect white surface throughout the use of the note-taking app. It feels quick, it looks sharp, and it handles ghosting really, really well. The Notes app on the Note Air 2 is brilliant. We're going to give it a 7. The next app that you're going to spend a lot of time in on the Boox Tab Ultra is going to be the NeoReader app. I spend a lot of time in here because this is my planner, and I make my planner into a PDF, and I simply just make notes on that planner. The scribble mode is this mode here. It works really, really well. Although I must say, I'm not sure why we can't have all of the same tools as we do in the Note app here on the PDF. I don't think I actually have any more serious documents here, but modes like the article mode is really, really good. If you do have text that's in columns or groups on the page, it can actually scan between these points on the page, And that is really useful because something that is maybe formatted for A4 doesn't necessarily display well natively on the A5 screen, and they can get around that using that article mode. You can also simply crop if you need to, so you can get rid of blank areas on the page essentially so that the text is as large as it can be. You can have this split view, so you can have the document and another document, or you can have the doc and a dedicated book notepad, which I think is an excellent use. This is all stuff that you can do on the Note Air 2 as well. So here, this notepad belongs with this book now. Whenever I am opening this book, I can always get this notepad alongside it as well. The next really useful thing about the NeoReader is that you can export all of your annotations, which are written annotations with the text, or your scribbles, and you can annotate them all to a separate PDF, and then that can be useful, really useful to put into your knowledge management system. And I've got a whole video where I go through using that on the Note Air 2 Plus. It's a fabulous feature. We're going to give the reading app a 9. It's a good solid experience. When it comes to other apps, well, they work well, and you have got access to the whole Google Play Store. And in some of my other demonstrations, I've gone through things like email and spreadsheets and Word, and they work really, really well. See this, I'm going to change this now from the HD mode into possibly the fast mode for this, where we'll see the benefit of having that GPU a bit better. The screen modes are what allows apps to work really, really well across different third-party apps. The screen modes change when you go into different apps, and it remembers your optimization as well. The way that Boox devices handle third-party apps are getting better all the time. The best apps are actually the Boox apps, because they make best use of the Eink screen. Because they're designed for this Eink screen, you can see this has gone into HD mode, and therefore it's looking absolutely fabulous every single time on this page. Usefully, it puts in my notes that I made on each date and what I was reading on that date as well. And I can add memos down here in my little pad. So one thing I'm having trouble figuring out is where the Boox App Store went, because Boox did a good job of optimizing third-party apps, and when you downloaded them from the Boox App Store, you always got the copy that they had really well optimized for the device. I'm not sure why they got rid of that. Perhaps that was just because now they're looking to more rely on the Google Play apps and make them work well natively on the device. Some apps do work better than others. For instance, OneNote is now working better. It still seems to do this thing where it prints into the device after you've written it. But I think you can absolutely live with this if you need to use OneNote. I think this is now a good integration. And Word works really well too. It looks great, frankly. However, I would really love to see Boox give us a word processor of their own, because then it would work seamlessly with the HD mode, and you wouldn't get this ghosting. So you can see this defaults to go into balanced mode, which is great for typing, but I am getting a little bit of ghosting, which you might be able to see on this. I would love to see Boox give us a dedicated word processing app. We're going to give other apps a 9 because it runs other apps so much better than other Eink tablet devices. The hardware section now. Firstly, the pen and screen feel. Well, the pen is the Pro 2 pen that you get bundled in, which is fabulous. The screen feel isn't as good as the Note Air 2 Plus. So that's the comparison, that's the trade-off. If you really do want that frictiony pen-like or paper-like screen feel, then I think stick with the Note Air 2 Plus. That being said, it's not a bad feeling. There is some friction, you can perhaps just hear this. But it's more like a slippery, more kind of touch-friendly screen. But the latency is absolutely boss. I'm hard pressed to see where the nib starts and the pen, unless you're moving very rapidly across the page. When you're just writing normally, it would be hard to see the difference between where the nib is and where the ink actually starts. It's rapid. However, I don't personally get that annoyed with the latency on any device. This is maybe not as important as some reviewers make out. And if you don't like the nibs on the pen, you can always change them out to any other Wacom nib. And if you don't like the screen feel, then you can of course put a paper-like screen protector on it as well. The pen and screen feel is going to be a 6, but that's not why you're buying this particular e-ink device. The design and build is the next category, and frankly, that's excellent. It feels really very quality, along with the cases that you can get for it. This is the keyboard case. And you can get just a normal magnetic case as well if you wanted it to feel a bit more like a book rather than a laptop. I personally think that I will be using it mostly with the keyboard case. It just seems to make sense. In terms of those looks, the design and build wise, it's a professional's dream. It's a sleek design and it's new. It's a slightly bulkier design, but it's not thick. Sort of closer to the current crop of iPads in design. Whereas the Note Air 2 Plus felt like a book, this does feel more like a tablet computer. You can see what they've done. Now here I think lies the rub as to whether you should buy this. Many of you tell me what you're really looking for in the Eink device is something that can sit alongside your laptop while you're using it, rather than something which is in itself a laptop replacement. Now if you're looking for something to sit on your desk for your notes along with your keyboard, next to your keyboard, perhaps stick with the Note Air 2 style of device. Where that Note Air 2 feels more like a book, this feels like another computer. And are you really looking for another small laptop? However, if you wanted to leave your laptop at home, perhaps you wanted to do something on your commute, then this would be an excellent device for that. Perhaps you want something just that you can use along with your phone. And if you mainly work with the written word, then this would be a gold standard device for that. If you want a device that you can flash out a few passages of text, maybe then just carry the same device to a comfortable reading spot, mark up some PDFs, do some reading and learning, then this is a great device for that. Maybe just flash off a few emails, attach your marked up PDFs as attachments in the emails, all on one device, all the while enjoying the comfort of an e-ink screen. Well, this is an excellent choice. Boox have done a great job on the design and build of this device. It's going to get an 8. So other features, there are many. The Screencast works really well. I've been using the Screencast, it's a Mirrorcast. I've been using it along with the Pro Screencast that I've reviewed here on the channel, and that means I could just plug that into the TV at school or any HDMI input really and cast directly to that. It works really well. However, what I will say is that in that mode, the battery does get drained pretty quickly. For some reason, but I don't show the colored pens on the Mirrorcast, which is really odd. The little icons for the pens have the colors, but when you actually write on them, it's just black and white. I bet that'll be fixed in an upcoming update soon. What I'd really like from this device is just to have a HDMI output from the USB OTG, please. I don't see why it doesn't have that. It seems to be a pretty straightforward thing that a lot of tablets do have now. Just a dongle please into HDMI so I can just connect it directly to any screen. You can use a mouse, that works just fine, but I'm not sure that I would. Although when I was typing using it in laptop mode, you kind of expect there to be a trackpad just beneath the keyboard. So it's a bit of a sort of disjointed use case really. It's not bad though, because you just touch the screen and you're quite used to that by now, I'm sure. It's funny, when I'm using it here on the desk in laptop mode, I often accidentally reach for this mouse, which is obviously silly. You're just used to having a mouse next to a keyboard. The other thing of course is it has the fingerprint reader, which you've just seen me use there. It works really well. You need to make it have a pin as a passcode and then you can enroll fingerprints. Then there's the scanner, and they are sensibly calling it a scanner rather than a camera, and the scanner works okay for some uses, I would say. It's a good way to digitize documents that you don't maybe have digital copies of. I demonstrated some of them. They didn't come out perfectly every single time. I'm sure they'll be okay. That scanner will work fine for documents that are mostly text, but possibly not for anything in tables or with sort of maths in it or something like that. Probably wouldn't use the camera as a camera. Here we are, let's see if we can get a selfie going. This is with OpenCam app. It's not a good photo, but it can actually focus okay, as you can see in these two photos. Beautiful. Now the big one, the important one, is the GPU. That is the feature of this device. It has a graphics processing unit built in. The screen is better. There is no doubt the screen is faster to refresh, clearer and cleaner in the white areas than it is on the other devices. I think it's excellent, but is it so far ahead that you wouldn't buy the Note Air 2 if you wanted note-taking? I'm not sure. Frankly, I don't think so. As I said at the top of the video, Boox have done a great job of making a device which isn't so far ahead in so many ways than the Note Air 2. or really what I should say is the Note Air 2 was an excellent device. The jump up to this one isn't so much that you don't want the Note Air 2 and you want this instead. The choice between them is just going to come down to, do you want this device working with the keyboard case, a little bit more fluid access to productivity apps? If you want that, this is the choice. If you just want the notepad, Boox Note Air 2 is still the one. And lastly, the battery life. You might have seen it's been hovering around 15%. Now I've been doing a fair amount, but this video, it started only half an hour ago at 19%. That's quite a big drop for an Eink device. I have been scooting around, I have been doing more battery intensive things, but nothing heavy on the processor. What I would say is, for instance, things like the Miracast drains the battery in an hour lesson. I lose maybe more than 10%. That's quite a lot, because if I use it for that purpose, then I will end up having to charge it every day or every other day. One thing I love about using an Eink device is charging it once a week. Now I don't mind charging the device, however there's one more thing to say about this battery, is that when I plug it into just a USB cable coming from a computer, like this for instance, it's an absolute trickle charge. One of the slowest charges I've ever seen. And that's fine, because of course I can plug it into a power delivery output, a proper charger with a high power output, and it will charge more quickly, okay. But when I say trickle charge, I'm talking left overnight, charged only 20%. So really surprising that I can't just sort of rely on giving it a bit of juice, plugging it into a laptop at work, as I do with all the other devices, all the other Eink devices, and let it charge up a good 10-15% to get me through the rest of the day. So that's a little bit surprising. Perhaps it's just because it has the larger battery, it needs the higher power to charge up. Previous Boox devices were fully featured. This is OTT in a good way. It's a really excellent, really fabulous device, and it does spend a lot of time in its keyboard case like this, with me enjoying typing on it. This is the feature for me for this device. This is a fully featured device. It's a 9. We're talking about the company. I don't hear a lot of complaints about Onyx Boox, because generally their hardware is good, it's solid, doesn't tend to fail. When you do dive into Reddit in a deeper way, then you do find some people a bit disgruntled about the customer service they've received. I don't think Boox do a particularly bad job of customer service at all. It's a difficult one to rate, but I'll give customer service a 6. The cloud software My.Boox is absolutely fine. When you log into any Boox device, then the notes sync across the whole set of devices, which is cool. So if you're someone that can't decide whether they want a small, medium or large Eink tablet, you can get all three, and you can have the same set of notes on all three. For instance, I've just filmed a video which was in this document which I wrote last night on the Nova Air, and opened it up on here this morning and went through my notes and filmed a video. So that is a useful thing. It's a funny thing, if you ever make a note on here and you aren't logged in, and then you log in, those notes go. But they are still on the device, so when you log out, they're still there, and then you can choose to upload them to a new account, to your account essentially. So there's some slightly funny sort of workarounds with the Boox cloud account. It's called push.boox. It's solid, it's free, and it backs up all your notebooks, and it won't send up PDFs, but what it will do is it will send up everything which is linked to that PDF. So if you particularly want to have one book with notes on it, those notes are synced up with the cloud, and those notes are synced up to different devices, as long as you put the same PDF with the same name in the same location on the device, it will actually go ahead and pull in all of the scribbles and all of the annotations and anything else which is linked to that book, for instance the book notebook. Cloud storage is good, it works just fine. It's going to be a 7 for that. Updates are really good. I think I updated this just last night. No, see that there's another one. They have been pretty constant, okay, because actually there's a few little bugs that they've been doing, and since I've had this device, they have been very, very constant. It's downloaded already, and I will update it as soon as I'm done with this. So the update, when they notice issues, they update pretty quickly. And it's interesting with the updates with Boox, because I'll often think, oh, there's something, a bit of a bug, or that didn't work as well as I thought it could. And I think to myself, I'll feed that back to Boox, and then look the next day, and there's an update with it already improved. So that's really good. And Boox have done such a great job of working through and making this more user-friendly, more like Android, I would say. For those of us that are used to the Android operating system, it's now got closer to that. For instance, allowing us to do the widgets and things like that. That's nice that today's memos come through from the calendar as well. There are lots of different PDFs that you can use to be a calendar and a note taker, but I would suggest if you go with Boox, it's well worth sticking and using to their calendar system, because this way it can link your notes and your reading to that date. Updates are swift and comprehensive, and they fix things fast, so I'm going to give it an 8. So now talking about flow and talking about, well, if you know your way around Android, then this is going to be really flowy now, more so than it was with the Note Air 2, where you had essentially reading and you had notes, and that was your lot on the homepage, or when you had apps. Now you have an Android style homepage with your app icons like you used to. Any widgets that you want to add are all there. In many ways, this is now going to be a very flowy device. And I do find it is easier to use because I'm used to Android than the Note Air 2 was. You can actually take your time, as I have, to set up a few different sort of home pages. Have this is called the Smart Assistant, which is their sort of pre-set up, although you can change this arrangement homepage, and then you can set up different home pages for different tasks. This is my Gmail side, these are my professional inboxes, and I'll add to those as I go. However, for its purpose, as a replacement for a PC, is it very flowy? Well, no, it's not a replacement for a PC in my opinion. I can't see myself using this at work instead of a laptop. I don't think I really could, although I could have my PowerPoints all on here for my teaching, could access all my Word documents on here. I still don't think that the sort of size of the screen, and crucially the size of the keyboard, is going to allow me to totally replace my laptop. One reason for that is that I'd have to cast to every screen that I wanted to present on rather than plug in an HDMI. So that would actually change things quite quickly if they allowed the OTG output to do HDMI. So is it a replacement for a PC, or on the other hand, is it simple enough to use that I'm not going to reach for my phone when I want to make a quick note down into Xtiles or other system that I use? Is it going to be simple enough to use to stop me doing that? Perhaps. In a world where Lenovo are actually trying to shoehorn a screen on the side of a keyboard so that you can make notes here, we all feel we want a digital device that we can make notes on next to our laptop keyboard. Is this going to be that device? No, as well. That device is still the Note Air 2 Plus in my opinion. But for me, that idea that Lenovo have to stick a tablet screen that you can write on next to the keyboard is not the answer. This category of device, Eink tablets, is closer to that answer. For flow, which is a double weighted category, I'm going to give this 16 points. It's really flowy, especially if you're used to using an Android device, but I'm just not quite sure exactly where it fits in our ecosystems. And adding all that up, that's a massive 85 points, which is huge, and it's currently the top recommendation of Eink tablets on my channel. So this is a new category for Boox, and it's a new category for Eink. Would I recommend that you buy this? Well, frankly, it's a difficult choice between this and the Note Air 2 Plus, because the Note Air 2 Plus is still excellent. And luckily, the choice isn't going to have to come down to, well, this is just cheaper, so you're going to get this, because this is a fantastic deal, and for all that you get bundled in, actually there's a really good value deal here. So you can in fact just make the choice based on the features and how they're going to work for you. There are a few projects out there for full Eink laptops, and well, would I really want a full Eink laptop, just a keyboard and a mouse and without this pen input? Probably not. So is this going to be a good balance? Actually, yeah, I think it works really well. And I must say, I think I've been pretty skeptical in a way, because I was pretty enamored and happy with this device before. This was doing everything that I wanted it to do, and then this comes along and yeah, it is better. There is objective improvements. Some are marginal and some are quite large leaps. And this might just have been the device for everyone who was waiting for the Eink laptops to arrive. This might be the device for you. Boox have learnt from their group of mirror devices how to best optimize a screen. And this is now the best experience on Eink, full stop. We will see when a few other notable releases come soon. So as a second device, as something that actually you wouldn't need to take a laptop with you, that you could, in the coffee shop, at your break times, actually fire off a few emails on this perfectly well appointed keyboard. You could fire off a few emails, you could organize your calendar, you could do all that. As a coffee table writer and tool for email and thinking, yeah, I can really see this device. When they announced this, my first thoughts were, can't wait for the Max version, the 13.3 inch version. And actually a 13.3 inch laptop is not a very large laptop. But I'm thinking, in a way, is that where this wants to go? Is this really just the right size? You can see they've had to make the keyboard case slightly larger to allow full-size keys. So perhaps there is a size in between the 10.3 and the 13.3 inch, which is just right for a laptop, just ever so slightly larger than this, just right for an e-ink productivity tool. What I am looking forward to now though is that this edition of the GPU has shown some real benefits in terms of latency, in terms of screen refresh. I think I'm backing Boox to really be the brand that cracks color e-ink, that cracks that 300 dpi screen. This could be the range that makes e-ink a no-brainer for so many more people.